through he hosted two other quizzes programs as well as a dancing competition. I've read that before. Matt Matt had just Matt had left. She didn't quite know why. It wasn't as if she had actually liked him. On the contrary, she had always known there was something weird about the boy. Hadn't he dreamt that his mother and father were going to die the night before the accident actually happened? She had only taken him in because Brian had pursued her, and of course he'd only wanted to get his hands on the money that Matt's parents had left their son. The trouble was the money had gone all too quickly, and then Matt had gone too taken away by the police as juvenile delinquent, and all she'd been left with was the blame. It wasn't her fault. She looked after him. She'd never forgotten the way the police looked at her, as if she was the one who'd committed the crime. She wished now that Matt had never come into her life. Everything had gone wrong because of Matt. And now on ITV, it's time once again to take your chances and spin the big wheel. Gowinder settled back as the big wheel theme tune began. £50 notes twisted and spun across the screen. The audience applauded, and there was Rex McCannon walking down the flashing staircase with a pretty girl holding onto each arm. He was dressed in a bright sequins jacket, waving and smiling happy as he always to be back. Good evening, everyone, he called out. Who knows who's going to win big time tonight? He paused and winked straight at the camera. Only the wheel knows. The audience went wild as if they were hearing the words. For the first time, but of course Rex was always beginning the show the same way. Only the wheel knows was his catchphrase all through. Gowinder was quite sure if it was true, the wheel was just a big piece of wood and plastic. How could it know anything? Rex come to halt and the applause died down. Gowinder was staring at the screen in a kind of trance she had already forgotten. Baked beans somewhere in the back of her mind. She wondered how it was that the television still worked, where the electric in the house had been turned off 2 weeks ago because she didn't pay the bill. But the back of her mind was a very long way away, and it didn't really matter. It was a blessing. How would she get through the nights without big wheel? Welcome to another show where the spin of a wheel could mean £1 million in your pocket or a return ticket home with absolutely nothing. Rex began, and what a busy week. I've had my wife spoke up at 6 o'clock yesterday morning to remember me to put the alarm on. The alarm went off at 7 and it still hasn't come back. The audience roared with laughter. Gowinder laughed too, but we've got a great show for you tonight, and in a minute we're going to meet the 3 lucky contestants who are competing for tonight's big prize. But remember, if you want to get your hands on £1 million quid. What do you have to do? You have to spin to win, the audience yelled. Brian said nothing. It was beginning to annoy Gowinder the way he just sat there. But before we can get started, Rex went on. I went to have a quick word with a very special lady, a real favourite of mine. She stepped closer to the camera as his face filled the screen. It seemed that Gowinder that he was looking directly at her. "Hello, Gowinder," he said. "Hello, Rex," Gowinder whispered. It was difficult for her to believe that he was actually talking to her. It always was, and now are you tonight, my love? I'm all right. She bit her lip and folded her hands in her lap. Well, listen, my darling, I wonder if you're giving any more thought to what we talked about. Matt Freeman, that guitar snipe, that little creep. Have you decided what you're going to do about him? Rex McKinnon had started talking to Gowinder 2 months ago. At the beginning, it had puzzled Gowinder. How could he interrupt the show, watched by 10 million people, just to speak to her somewhere? He even managed to do it in the repeats, and that couldn't be possible because some of them had been recorded years ago. At first, it had worried her. She worried her when she told Brian about it. He'd laughed in her face and said she was going mad. Well, Rex had soon put her straight about Brian now, and now she didn't worry about it anymore. It was bizarre, but it was happening, and the truth was flat. She adored Rex, and it seems he was quickly fond of her. Matt Freeman made a fool of you. Rex went on. He came into your house and he ruined your relationship with Brian. And then the boy got into trouble, and everybody said it was your fault. And now look at you, no money, no job. You're mess, Gowinder. It's not my fault, Gowinder muttered. I know it's not your fault, love. Not your fault, oh love, Rex replied for a moment. For the camera cut away, and Gowinder could see the studio audience getting restless, waiting for the show to begin. You looked after that boy, you treated him like a son, but he'd pushed off without so much as a by your leave, no gratitude, of course. Kids those days, he's cock of a walk now, and cook of a walk, uh, now, and you shouldn't hear the things he says about you. I've been thinking about it, and I have to say, I believe a boy out to be punished. Punished, Gowinder muttered the word with a sense of dread. Just like you punished Brian for being so rude to you. Rex shook his head. Maybe it was a trick of the studio lighting, but he'd seemed almost to be reaching out of a television set as if he was about to climb into the room. The fact of the matter is that Matt is a very nasty piece of work. He said everywhere he causes trouble. You remember what happened to his parents? They died. It was his fault. He could have saved them. And there are other things you didn't know about it. He upset some very good friends of mine recently. In fact, he more than upset them, he killed them. Can you believe that he killed all of them? If you ask me, there's no question about it. He needs to be punished. Very several survival indeed. I didn't know where he is. Gowinder said I can tell you that he goes to school called Forest Hill. It's in Yorkshire, just outside York. That's not so far away. What do you want me to do? Gowinder asked. Her mouth was dry. The tin of beans that tilted forward in her hands and cold tomato sauce were dripping into her lap. You like me, don't you, Gowinder? The television presenter gave her one of his special smiles. There was little wrinkles in the corner of her eyes. You want to help me. You know what has to be done. Gowinder nodded. For some reason, she had begun to cry. She wondered if this would be the last time Rex McCannon would talk to her. She would go to York and she wouldn't come back. You go there on the train and you find him and you make sure that he never hurts anyone again. You own it to yourself. You own it to everyone. What do you say? Gowinder couldn't speak. She nodded a second time, but the tears were flowing. Faster, Rex backed away. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Gowinder Davis. She's a lovely lady and she deserves a big round of applause. Subscribe at share, like, thank you. Click on my screen and my thumbnail, thank you.